Hey everybody, how are you? It's about 2:15 in the morning, and I'm just waiting to go to bed. And if you're wondering, well, why don't you go to bed now? Well, the answer is because I don't go to bed till about 3 or 4. And if you're asking at that point, well, what are you going to do until then? The answer is nothing. We just wait till the time we go to bed. Does that make a tremendous amount of sense? No, but rules are rules. So here we are, just waiting until the time we usually go to bed. Now, I could go to bed now and reset the entire operating system of my day, but I just don't want to do that. So I'm just, like everyone else is, waiting until their bedtime. I don't know why we do it. It's just not time. I'm not leaving you, I'm just getting a glass of water. Relax. Don't know the last time I put water in a glass. Maybe it was like a deposition or something. Might be the only time I ever poured water in a glass. But I'm full of surprises tonight. Cheers. They put you in a hotel room and they make you wait. And I have a pretty good rate of success in a hotel room. And then sometimes you just look around, it's 2:15, you're nowhere near tired, and you got nothing to do. So you look at some water and you see how much battery power is left on your phone, and you go, that's about a live's worth. What's going on? Let's pretend that we're both waiting at a dermatologist. Are you having something removed? Or just looked at? You know, I could take a look first. I've seen a thing or two. Dr. Pimple Popper, I've heard about her. I think I've said that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Hey, it's some nice assy art there. What's up, Nate Moonlife? What's up, Mrs. __? I think that's 3 underscores. Hard to measure an underscore without a Coke can around. How's everybody? Long day, wasn't it? What are we doing tonight, my dude? We're just waiting to go to bed. We're out of stuff to do. Now time to go to sleep. Yeah, West Coast is still going strong at 11:18. I have cut my hair, Mo. Thank you for. Wow, is there something happening to the? Is something happening to the distortion on the lens? Is my chin getting super long down here? Oh, my hair. Back to my hair. Got to cut a little short, but that is so that when I go on the road and I'm not in cities where I can get my hair cut with someone that I'm familiar with, it has room to grow in. It's a little short for a minute, but it'll make sense in Mountain View, California. It's a cut that sort of looks to the future. It's a cut with the future in mind. Thank you. Any advice for someone in a creative rut? Just wait. Just wait. A lot of times people want to create because they want to have something new. And that's never been enough of a reason to create something. You've got to create from a closer place to you than just would like to have something new. I said that before, probably repeating myself, but never really successfully come up with a song just because I really needed one. Yes, I did. Cleaned it around the ears. So that's my take on creativity. Also, if you have different like modes of creativity going, then if you're slow on one, you have some others that you can sort of offset with. So if I don't get the music thing going for a minute, I'll pick something else to be creative in. So surround yourself with a bunch of creative endeavors, and usually you will never be left without at least one that you'll be interested in. That's right. Pick up a different stick so you don't get stuck. Feels about X. What I like to do is think through my statement on things so that anybody who wants to address the statement can just refer back to the original statement. I like to future-proof my statements. So I would refer you to the Instagram story posted a few hours ago. That's the benefit of getting your thoughts right the first time, is that you go, yeah, just read it again. Just read it again. Yeah, you know what I think look, I don't get angry. I get frustrated. I can get confused. I tend to intellectualize things. I tend to like observe and try to figure out why something is the way that it is. Not necessarily how to get rid of it, how to eradicate it. I'm very curious as to how things become the way that they are. And one of the things that's really interesting, sorry for not looking at the comments for a minute, going up to my thinking place, going up to the mezzanine, thinking mezzanine. One of the things that I find really interesting, and nobody's fault, is that social media, I know, to begin a sentence with social media, you're like, oh God, here comes the think piece. But there are no divisions of age or experience. And I don't say that to put anybody down who is of lesser age or experience. But it is a giant auditorium filled with people of varying age and experience. And I don't know of a time, other than a dinner table or a family gathering, where you were engaging so much with people that had such a glaringly different set of experiences or of a different age. So before social media, you would age out of being around people who were 18 when you turned, 25. And you'd age out of being around 25-year-olds when you were 35. And you'd age out of being around 35-year-olds when you were 50, unless you went to work, And now what's really interesting is that everybody has to coexist. And you take a situation like somebody being murdered. Well, when you're older and you have experience, you can grasp the nuances. When you're younger and you are inexperienced, and again, I don't say that in a derogatory way, you don't quite yet grab the possibilities in life that two separate truths can coexist. That happens a little bit later. And that's okay, right? That's okay. You will learn that. You do get that. You do get that because it happens to you. Something in your life happens to you that is nuanced, that doesn't add up to 100, that comes up short, but somehow you can find a way for, like I said, two truths to coexist. And so what's interesting about the whole thing is that someone who is 40 and experienced and to a certain extent worldly and has taken some psychological trips through the world, it makes a lot of sense to me what I wrote. And it makes a lot of sense to other people too. And then to other people with a varying degree of age and experience, they don't get it yet. And what we need to understand is that is not a catalyst for an argument. That shouldn't be a catalyst for an argument. You've got to make a statement, which you have every right to do, and not go into the DMs and create chaos, because you don't know the people who are responding. And it's safe to say that people's ability to empathize is completely relative to their experience. So here's a 40-year-old writing, and anybody from the age of 9, up to the age... I had a phone call, but I'm wondering if I should take it. Hold on, let me see. Well, I had a thing going, and now I can't see if the, doesn't appear to be working. It seems as if a phone call has messed up my camera. Maybe I'll get off and go back on again. Sorry, I had a phone call. I thought it was someone telling me, like, hey, stop. But it wasn't. Alice, let me know when you're on. So anyway, that's the thing that we have to account for with social media, is that it doesn't delineate age and experience. And compassion and empathy is directly linked to your personal experience. So what I'd like to see is people seeing another point of view that comes at them and not go, now, in some cases, yeah, that is called for. But this is an edgy one. It's an edgy one, And I made sure that I kept my language super salient to the point, which I probably didn't in my explanation of it. But, look, if you speak in a very concerted way, in a very thoughtful way, then you'll notice that the thing you wrote can hold up, and that you can take a shower, and you can go out to dinner and not be stuck to your phone and go, oh no, what's going to happen? And you learn to do that as you get older, is to write things that are more incontrovertible. So, Alice, are you on now? Is that what you wanted? Were you looking to, let me see. No, you're not even, maybe you're not even watching. Maybe you just wanted to FaceTime. So anyway, that was my long answer. Look, when someone gets murdered, they have the dignity of their ability to change someday taken away from them. They get the dignity to have the opportunity to grow and change stolen from them. And but how long you have to live to understand that nuance? Sorry, if you're friggin' 19 years old and you go down with so-and-so, you go, maybe what my point is that 3 or 4 people looked at it and went, yeah, I guess he's got a point. You say, that's too bad. And then you can say whatever you want. There's a scene in RoboCop at the very beginning where Ed 209, the predecessor to RoboCop, malfunctions and kills one of the executives at the building. And everyone is so callous about it. And they're like, tough shit. And I'm like, I remember being a kid watching that going, ugh. If you don't recoil in some way when somebody dies, what's left? What is left of your humanity? That's my point. Okay. What else is happening out there? I am here for you. I also want to acknowledge that I did rely on a RoboCop reference. but I meant it with all sincerity. Sometimes an 80s movie reference works. The second set Saturday night, man, that whole thing at Citi Field night 2 was, I'm still not over it. That was the first time that I really felt, for me, like I played the show that I always had in mind to play. When I first started with this band, and I have a much better ear than I have hands, right? So my hands are catching up to my ears. And when I first started playing with this band, I would detect seconds that I was doing it, meaning playing in a way that satisfied what my dream was. And then it would fall apart in my head. I'd go, turn it off. I can't hear it back. I'd be in the car or something, and like a version of something we played, of me playing guitar on it would come on serious, and I'd go, And then like minutes would come out, and I'd go, oh, cool. And then I would hear myself become sort of distracted with some other new idea on the guitar and go sort of over the top and go, oh, okay, change the channel. And are you telling me to stop talking on my own Instagram Live? Who in your life instilled in your mind that a cool thing to say to somebody who's on an Instagram Live, the point of which is to stop talking? What sort of hand-me-down of discomfort is that to me that was placed in you to ask me to stop talking so much on my own Instagram Live? What kind of hand-me-down nonsense is that? Okay. Well, then as I kept going, more and more of the span of the concerts, I was more like, okay, now I'm up on the wave. I'm not crashing as much. Okay, now I'm up on the wave. And then Saturday night was the most I've been up on the wave in one show that I've ever been. And the band too. It was just great. It was great. And I'm a tough critic on myself. I know a lot of people think that I'm cocky, which I was, and could use some of it lately. Could use a little bit of it, but really not. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. But that was a good show. Favorite songs to play this tour, Dead and Company. I really like Sailor Saint lately. I don't know why I like that song so much. Sailor Saint. I mean, it's a good song. I'm not saying I don't know why I like that song. It's just not a first stringer to a lot of people. Love a jackstraw. Oh yeah, Hunter Thompson said, "Go with God, but row away from the rocks," which was really nice. What else I really like Peggy O lately, the way we're doing it. Estimated Profit, Eyes of the World, Mississippi Half Staff. I mean, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of them. We will be in LA with Dead and Company at Dodger Stadium on July the 7th. Hello, Maxine. How are you? I see you can't sleep. I wish you the best with that. I can sleep. It's just not my sleeping time yet. How bright is that? How adult is that? Just wait until my predetermined time to fall asleep. Doesn't mean I'm going to stay up until... I'm going to stay on here until then, but... Am I coming to Colorado? Yes. Wow, this really makes me feel like we didn't do a good enough job of pushing those dates out there. We're going to be in Colorado on the 13th and 14th of July in Boulder. You should definitely come check it out. What else? What time is that? I don't know. We're going on like between 7 and 7:30. Dallas. We did Texas last late November. So, anywho. Favorite new movies? Haven't seen any movies in a while. Let me tell you something, though. I saw a trailer that fucked me up a couple nights ago. Let me tell you about... I like the stadium shows better than the sheds, maybe? I don't know why. The openness of that air, the music going over that open air is fantastic. I saw a trailer for a movie called Christopher Robin, and it is a modern-day story about an older Christopher Robin who is once again visited by his childhood compatriot poo, and I was bawling. Bawling, B-A-W-L-A-N-G. And that shit was sad. That shit was super sad. Even though it was supposed to be like uplifting, nah. I was crying while it was playing. I was crying 3 web pages later. I was on Amazon.com still crying. I was buying Sharpie markers crying still. Jeez, he says, I've cracked. He says, you haven't. I don't see any cracks. A few wrinkles, maybe. Chris Rocco, I don't know how to block somebody on Instagram Live, but I will block you. You talk a lot. What do you want me to do? Ask questions, just sit here, look at you stupidly? Okay, Chris. So, Chris, how are you? I'm sorry. I've been so selfish here with my time. How are you doing, Chris? Mm-hmm. I see. And how does that make you feel? And I'm so glad this is making you happier, Chris. Oh, yeah. How does that work exactly? Do you pay for that, or does the company pay for that? You just shouldn't even try to come at me. Just don't. I'm just smarter than you. And I hate to say it like that, but if you're going to tell me I talk too much, you're basically telling me I'm smarter than you. So I'm smarter than you. If you tell someone they talk too much, unless they're like kicking a can up and down the street and they can't hold a job, you're kind of admitting they're smarter than you. You can say you talk more than I do. That's an empirically comparative statement. That's fine. Looking at someone telling them they talk too much is a concerted effort to get underneath their skin and make them second guess themselves. That won't happen with me, sir. I will devastate you with many, many different tools at my disposal. Many different tools. Oh, man. Now, see, this is I didn't tell him to get wrecked. I was very cordial the whole time. I slice and dice. There is no blood. There is no blood. I slice clean through nerve endings. Ever thought about being a therapist? Well, we are all therapists in some ways to others, and others are our therapists. Click girl. Okay, she says you don't talk enough, to be honest. I just feel like being really hard to please right now and being like, no, that's crazy. But I won't, because that was sincere. I probably do talk enough. Okay, so let me tell you where we are right now in the Instagram Live. One might say, hey, John, get off Instagram Live. It's not really like one of your best. But this is always the moment, like, right before something truly incredible happens. There's a moment you can smell it in the bridge of your nose, where things are gathering to go somewhere, but they're not there exactly. $6,152 people can't sleep either. Marriage, do I see myself going down that path someday? Absolutely. And it bums me out to think that at any point in my life somebody was like, I bet that's the kind of guy that never wants to get married. That would be a real big misunderstanding of the entire mission statement of my life. I'm looking for to do the East Coast boogie. What's the East Coast boogie? You find a lady to settle down with and watch TV. Don't say you're bummed in Europe. Oh, let me use context clues for that. Got it. Is pushing 40 in the friend zone referring to your age or miles per hour? Yes, is the answer. Both. That's the fun of the line. What's the West Coast boogie? It's a little different. The West Coast Boogie is a little more active. The West Coast Boogie is like go to Palm Springs on the weekend and go to Mammoth skiing. And the East Coast Boogie is like you just like get a TV schedule going on. You both agree to stop working out. You're like, so what do you say we come to some sort of peaceful accord? 30-pound grace period? What do you say? 30 pounds for you, 30 pounds for me? Tap the other on the shoulder if you go over 30 pounds? Okay. And then you both sort of just go, but you're happy. And you chill out and you fall in love and you're just like super chill and you make a couple babies and you like, like that's the East Coast Boogie. Will I ever go back to Connecticut for East Coast Boogie? I'll do like a combination East Coast, West Coast Boogie. That's totally me. See, I knew something cool was going to happen, and East Coast Boogie is what emerges. You know what I mean about East Coast Boogie? West Coast Boogie's like, well, I don't know that there is a West Coast Boogie, but there is an East Coast Boogie. Yeah, that was Zach Galifianakis' show that I played No Such Thing on. It was called Late Something with Zach, Late Night with Zach or something like that. Whose show do I want to see this year? I just want to go to a Paramore show and geek out, but they played tonight, and I just needed another day off. But they were in Montreal. Are they in Montreal? No, Toronto. And I know that record's. I know every note on that record. The first 4 songs of that record is just one big awesome song. There you go. Michelle, West Coast requires blanket with wine and cheese. That's the West Coast Boogie. The West Coast Boogie is smoking pot, watching Big Bang Theory. That's actually very East Coast Boogie. Let's please break down. That's right. West Coast Boogie, lots of time in Santa Barbara. West Coast Boogie is the outlet stores outside on those like desert highways. West Coast Boogie is like going to your kids' Little League games, like right after your meetings. West Coast Boogie is like, I need something signed for my kid's private school. They're doing an auction. That's West Coast Boogie. East Coast Boogie is like, I'm always like, is that guy yelling at you? Oh no, you're friends. That's what happens on the East Coast a lot. East Coast Boogie is a Snapple bottle on the floorboard of your car. East Coast Boogie is scratch-off tickets pressed inside the cup holder in the center console. East Coast Boogie is how do we spice up this trip to Wegmans? Come on, let's do it. East Coast Boogie versus West Coast Boogie. Nantucket Nectars, that's some East Coast Boogie. East Coast Boogie is a toasted everything bagel with garlic and herbs spread. Trip to Wegmans. East Coast Boogie is Sally's Pizza in New Haven. Kind of specific, but I'll allow it. West Coast Boogie, kombucha on the way to Big Bear. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. East Coast Boogie is, let me think about another East Coast Boogie thing. Oh, East Coast Boogie starting a landscaping company. That's East Coast Boogie. Oh, man. East Coast Boogie's starting a landscaping company with your bruh. West Coast Boogie's having a large double In-N-Out meal for dinner. That is correct. Do I often destroy people my way? No. I don't like to just, I don't want to get, I don't know. East Coast Boogie's naming your son Chad. West Coast Boogie's naming your son Brad. These are great lyrics. You guys are funny as fuck tonight. Let me think of more. East Coast Boogie is the inevitable target in Costco right after church. West Coast Boogie is hiring a trainer. West Coast Boogie is hiring a trainer. What's a normal coast boogie thermal undies? North Coast boogie thermal undies. Yes. West Coast boogie is eating vegan food only. Absolutely. East Coast boogie is an Entenmann's cake. East Coast boogie is a Drake's cake. East Coast boogie is the '86 Mets. East Coast boogie is Hydrox cookies. 45-year-old boogie is heartburn after eating pretzels. Can you really get heartburn after eating pretzels? Midwest boogie is just corn. That's what someone wrote. Soul Cycle's on the West Coast. There's some Soul Cycle on the East Coast. Like, we're getting away from the whole vibe of the East Coast boogie, is that it's super domestic. I'll come up with another one. Hold on a minute. East Coast boogie's selling a bike in the paper. That's the East Coast boogie. East Coast boogie is selling a bike in the paper. East Coast boogie is, hey, I know a shortcut to avoid the tolls in the turnpike. Courtney's laughing because Courtney went to high school with me. I had a crush on Courtney all through high school, but we're cool now. East Coast boogie, come on. East Coast boogie is Utz chips. That is true. That is correct. I will allow it. Let me think about another one. West Coast boogie is a $20 poke bowl. You're talking about, I do poke like 3 times a week when I'm on the West Coast. East Coast boogie is a snowball stand. West Coast boogie is a waterbed with silk sheets, perhaps in the 80s. East Coast boogie is Crocs and socks. West Coast boogie is beaches and flip-flops. East Coast boogie is 2 pounds of butter on a bagel. That is correct. West Coast boogie is an acai bowl. That is absolutely correct. West Coast boogie is starting your own podcast. 1,000% correct. Well, someone's asking what an East Coast boogie is. It started out talking about East Coast boogie is what you do once you get married, and you just like lock in with your spouse, and you stay in and you just watch movies, and you put on 30 pounds together. And you're just like psyched with life, and you drink. Oh, East Coast boogie is a fleece vest with a cigarette burn in it. Come on. If you don't have a friend on the East Coast who has like a fleece jacket with a perfectly circular cigarette ash burn in it, you're not on the East Coast, and you're certainly not doing the East Coast boogie. The East Coast boogie is a keychain with like 600 keys on it. That's East Coast boogie, and I can. So Brian's Guitars. Oh, Brian's Guitars, very East Coast. West Coast boogie, planning your significant other's social media content calendar. Absolutely. West Coast boogie is like your girlfriend being like, you want to go to the Museum of Ice Cream? And you're like, are you just doing this to go get content? That's West Coast boogie. East Coast boogie is taking a trip to a marsh for a science trip. East Coast boogie's wearing a windbreaker when it snows, correct? This is really funny, by the way. I told you we'd get somewhere. Boogie's just like how you do life. West Coast boogie is picnics and sick flicks. You're just trying to get me to rap now. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. Bro Bible, it's totally true. Like, I would just be worried about going out with someone who had like a major Instagram account, because she'd be like, you want to get unicycles? And I'd be like, this isn't about the unicycles, is it? You know what I mean? Is it possible to East Coast boogie on the West Coast? Yes, at the Dead and Company show at Dodger Stadium on July 7th. We will be East Coast boogieing the frick out of the place. East Coast Boogie is driving to a lake an hour away and calling it an adventure. East Coast Boogie is driving 3 exits down the highway and calling it an adventure. On the East Coast, if you go 3 towns over, you are day tripping. East Coast Boogie is above ground swimming pools? 1,000%. 1,000%. Very well done. Would I rather East Coast or West Coast Boogie? I would like to East Coast Boogie on the West Coast. That's what I'd like to do. That's right. Unicycle interests need to be pure. That's exactly right. If I could only do one boogie for the rest of my life, it would be East Coast Boogie. It's where I'm from. I East Coast Boogie. East Coast Boogie is indoor skiing. I've only seen that in Dubai. Would trampolines be East or West Coast? Trampolines are West Coast. If I had to pick one. East Coast Boogie's baseball in the street. That's East Coast Boogie. Difference between East Coast Boogie on the East or West Coast is that you've got, okay, so the boogie is the way you live your life and the coast is the surroundings. So imagine taking the East Coast Boogie life, but basically all the West Coast environment without the like pseudo-spiritualism. East Coast Boogie is crackheads wearing Timbs. I don't want to comment on that. That doesn't make me feel good. If America is the West, then isn't the East Coast Boogie technically the West Coast Boogie? That's not helpful. West Coast Boogie, saying goodbye too many times and then linger a little bit longer than saying bye again. Is that just an entire contiguous United States boogie? West Coast Boogie is bird scooters. East Coast Boogie is fight at Metro North Pass and last year's winter jacket. 100%. East Coast Boogie is leave your ski pass on, your zipper forever. Someone wrote, hey, look, it's the father of my future kids. And I'm like, you have future kids? Imagine having future kids. You're like tripping over something again. You're like, what is this? And it's like a painting of the 49th president. And you're like, you future kids. You're like, by the way, who is that? And they won't tell you. And in the East Coast, people leave without saying anything? On the East Coast, people speak while they're still inhaling a cigarette. The East Coast people, okay, so in the West Coast, people smoke a cigarette like this. I wouldn't say that. I think you should give her a call. On the East Coast, they go, I wouldn't say that. I think you should give her a call. That is exactly what happens on the East Coast. Listen, bro, I gotta tell you a story. You gotta go. All right. Man, we can really, this is a great writer's room. Right, Brian? That is the East Coast Boogie is the talk white. Bro, I think you should totally give her a call. East Coast Boogie is lacrosse tournaments on the weekend. True. West Coast Boogie is CrossFit on the weekday. I'll sign off when my phone is at 10%, which is very soon. Someone wrote, I'm crying of laugh. And I know that it's probably not your first language, English, but it's very funny to say, I'm crying of laugh. It's very cute. Unless you're being cute. East Coast in Toronto is hockey day and night. I should have my own show on Apple Radio. Well, you never know. We would have fun. We would have fun. West Coast Boogie is love on the weekend. East Coast Boogie is rolling on home. That's interesting. Rolling on home is, to me, like Montana Boogie. All right, listen. I'm just going to sit here and continue to wait till I go to sleep. It's not time exactly yet, but it's like soon. Thank you for hanging out with me. I wish you all the best. And thank you, Jackie. This was a really fun one. And we'll do it again sometime. So rest up. And one more time. West Coast. Oh, listen, man, you should give her a call. I think she likes you. East Coast. Listen, man, you should give her a call. I think she likes you. East Coast Boogie is hating the Eagles. West Coast Boogie is hating Billy Joel. And we can just, I would like to, the Devil's Reject is on IMC. Thanks very much. Thanks, Greg. By the way, Greg just popping in at the very end. Last West Coast Boogie is rewatching you live and then screen recording the parts you shouted me out. Oh, I could do that. I'll just send you the raw file. You guys are great. Thank you for being my friends. And I will see you around. Sleep well.